So I'll just get straight into it. This will be a quick, simple video, which hopefully you'll see my viewpoints, my opinions, and realize that, other people can have different opinions if you don't see eye to eye to me. Now, this is why supports have gotten buffs in recent seasons. Let me start. I think it truly began with Daredevil. That's when it truly took off of like, okay, supports are needing buffs. Ultron, the last strategist before Gambit to get added to the game, while he was very good in the flying meta, which the season he was released in, that season was heavily catered to him, and he was, even till now, with his buffs, always locked to triple support. He wasn't good at all in double support, and so you never really had a true character. And especially Ultron, he had all of the weaknesses as other flyers, if not even more, since he's a strategist and is a key part. While an Iron Man, well, yes, he can die, he can get back to the point pretty quickly, while the other strategists are still sustaining the team. But if you kill an Ultron, the team is less sustaining overall, and therefore you're going to lose a lot of team fights rather than your Ultron dying compared to your Iron Man. And so even now, after getting buffed a lot, he's still an absolute horrible point. He has a 30-something% accuracy rate in Celestial and above. And then after that, they added Daredevil, not directly after, but a couple seasons after, which has been meta ever since he came out. And around that time too, Loki got a 20% nerf to his damage and healing per his illusions, along with several other nerfs around that area, like his runes being on a global cooldown, which has been only reserved for Strange Portal. Luna's ult, which let me just say is the strongest support ult in the game previously in terms of pure healing numbers. It had a trade-off. While you could do damage or do healing, that radius is very small compared to other support ults. Compared to Invis ult, way smaller, but less healing. Cloak and Dagger, less healing, bigger area, more vulnerable. Rocket, his ult can get shredded by Phoenix. That's another thing right there. Phoenix got added, which counters a support ult and can kill on top of it. But my main point is, Luna's ult, while yes, did heal a lot, was super small compared to other support ults. And Rocket's ult before, he was only really good in triple support in the very early seasons before his damage got increased for his ult and got added shield to it. And I will just say this, Rocket was called S tier for around a half a season before people realized adding extra shield to his ult didn't really impact his ult too much. Well, yes, it made him an actual good support ult instead of just pairing good with a Punisher and other very high damaging. Back then, it could do more now. But a lot of people just weren't ready for that change in meta, where Rocket is now feasible in double support. And so everyone called him S tier, even though back then I even said he is not S tier. He's still as good as he is. His ult is just better. And right now, he's gotten no changes. His ult's actually gotten buffed. He's still not ranked S tier or even A or B tier. While he is good in certain comps, I wouldn't call him one of the top healers in the game. And then Gambit got added. I would say this is more of a counteraction, if that's the correct word for it, because all the DPS players, all the tank players, pretty much all the toxic, clout farmy, rage baity type streamers all said supports are heal bots. They just sit in one place, do this, do that, do nothing, have zero skill to play the game, etc., etc. Even though in DPS and tank players play support, they're absolutely horrible at it, but side note. And then they added Ultron, mix of DPS support was absolutely horrible, still is kind of horrible now. Especially in double support, he was never good, except for in the flying meta specifically catered to him and double support. And then they add Gambit. And Gambit, well, yes, has been very good. They kind of did what they did with Daredevil. Daredevil has a ton of abilities. He chooses one ability, he has two other options to choose from there. Gambit is the exact same way. He has two decks of cards, and those decks of cards have two different abilities inside of it. Like I said in the past multiple times, Gambit is just Daredevil if he was added into the strategist role. And so what do? You add a dive character who's been meta since release, a must ban in every game. You never nerf them, only giving them negative 25 HP, which wasn't their main problem. The number one win rate in all DPS is a dive in Daredevil. So okay, the game was like, okay, let's add a support who's strong. Now Gambit, which I think he has the highest support win rate right now. So okay, back-to-back seasons. You had a dive, highest win rate of all DPS, then mostly attack supports. So you bring out a support which has the highest win rate among supports as a counteractive to that. I don't like counteractives. It's kind of like Bucky and Loki, except they threw off that balance, giving Loki a 20% nerf to his damage and healing back then. And then Daredevil also countered Invis. Her name no longer exists. If there's a Daredevil, he can still see Invis. Unlike Loki, if Invisible Woman bumps into someone, she doesn't go out of invisibility, meaning she only had jump to reliably get away from people, because her shield could be broken, and back then, she would need to place a shield on someone, then walk to them to get actually healed by it. And so she only had jump to really get away from people other than the push, which Daredevil also counters with his grapple. Now if you say, okay, what if Daredevil doesn't have his grapple, then I can also say, what if Invis doesn't have her push or pull? And can this go back and forth forth like that. And so Invis's entire kit was pretty much nerfed by adding Daredevil, who is the best dive in the game and the #1 DPS in terms of win rate in the game in Celestial and above. And so the devs were like, okay, the top 3 of 4 DPS in the season, as of reading this right now, top 3 out of 4 DPS and win rates are dive characters. And even in the past, patch notes said whenever the supports got a damage buff, around the time the support strike happened, after it happened actually, the devs said in their patch notes, people don't peel. And so all of this happening, adding the #1 best DPS in the game in Daredevil, the highest win rate among DPS, a dive character, dives getting a resurrection pretty much, previous seasons having BP run rampant and being a must ban in many seasons after Snow Rigs got fixed, which later seasons, you know, has died down a little bit because of all the counteractives kind of impacting each other, buff, no really big nerfs. And so what happened was, after Gambit got added, was he ran rampant. Again, DPS claiming that as their own because that's what they did. They did it with Ultron too. And so what happened was Gambit got nerfed too, 200 to his ultimate ability the very next half season. Well, I do agree with that. You should slightly nerf powerful characters and slightly buff weaker characters to see what that takes them. That's my philosophy right there. You can agree or disagree with that as you must. And if you're asking, I have a problem with Daredevil getting a slap on the wrist because there's a difference between slaps on the wrist and slight buffs. Daredevil's problem was never his health, it was his damage and ability to just block every single kind of ability and get out scotch-free in a lot of cases. And so with DPS getting stronger, dives being added to the game, which are S tier, the best characters in terms of win rates, more anti-heal, Venom with a 40%, Hela Namor, team up added, Bucky getting more buffs, Hela getting more buffs, Hawkeye getting more buffs, Spider-Man also getting more buffs, 2 or 3 cooldown buffs, while supports like Loki nerfed to the ground. All that happened is like, okay, there's way too much damage in the game. We need to actually buff supports now. That's not me saying they never buff supports. Don't throw me out of context. So the game said, okay, let's buff Loki again. Get him out of the gutter. Because right now, at the time he got buffed, Moon Knight was A tier and Bucky was still S tier. Ever since season 0, Bucky has been S tier, who counters Loki. Even at Loki's best point, which is in season 0 arguably, Loki, if he played into a good Bucky or Moon Knight, you would say you are throwing if you were the Loki. Your team would say you are throwing if you're playing Loki. And while that's not me saying you can never win against a Bucky and Moon Knight as Loki, because I've done that plenty of times. I did even my rank up to Celestial game. I got into Celestial, fell out, and then won back into it. And I played 3 games in a row against a Moon Knight. Won 2, lost 1, and made it into Celestial. Again, it's just how if you play Namor into a Spidey, the Spidey can still kill you and wreak havoc in your backline. Counters are not always guarantees. But if the counters are actually playing good and have good players controlling them, they will definitely be a problem. And so they buffed Loki. They didn't nerf his counters, of course, but they actually made him viable again. And right now, if you ask many people, he's only as good as he is now because of Gambit and Invis. Mostly Gambit though, with his ult. And so you actually see Loki bans in higher ranks. And then they buffed Luna, gave her a self snowflake, buffed Invis to give her a self shield. More abilities to help sustain their own lives. Because with all the increased damage, all the anti-heal, Thing got a 20% vulnerability to whoever he jumps on. And that can do a whole lot of damage. Gambit got anti-heal. So even Gambit is hurting supports in their gameplay. A lot of players like to say, because it's a popular opinion right now, all the anti-heal, increased vulnerability, all of that got added because of how strong supports are and were. But I could easily say the opposite of that too. All the supports got buffs because of all the anti-heal got added, and how strong all the DPS are this season and previous seasons, and how the stronger dive characters and stronger DPS characters keep getting stronger. Magneto got a buff, who's very good at dunking and countering support ults. Phoenix has gotten buffs, which counters Rocket Ult. Captain America got a buff, who is mostly a dive. Angela got a buff, which yes, can a lot of the times mess up tank placements and front lines and all that, but can also heavily impact the back line. I mean, she just needs to swing in, left click, dash, left click, kill. You can do nothing about it, especially if you don't get healed. So my main point is, supports got buffs, and this isn't the whole story either, but supports got buffs because all the increased damage, all of the counters to supports getting buffs, getting added, anti-heal, increased vulnerability, supports getting nerfed to the ground, especially with Loki in previous seasons. And even now, Ultron has a 30-ish% win rate. Luna has a negative win rate, I think around 47. Even Invisible Woman at this point has a negative win rate. All these Celestial and higher, you can look for yourself, may have changed. The last time I looked, and this video right now is being recorded in advance. This is the 2nd right now of the new year. And you may look back on this, maybe my words aged horribly, maybe it ages amazingly. Just let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. See ya.